Hey everybody, I'm Jay Martin. This is a Napoleon game, and a weird thing happened to me the other day. I loaded the game up for some reason, checked out the multiplayer lobby, and there was somebody who was hosting a 1v1 game on Grassy, and they were looking for an opponent, and I was like, sure, I'll play a game with you. And I get in the lobby with the person, and they're like, are you the Jay Martin from YouTube? I was like, yeah, I am. And they're like, wow, I like your videos and everything. I was like, this is kind of weird. Kind of a throwback to 6 years ago. But I was like, yeah, I'll play with you, no problem. Let's have some fun and see what happens, I guess. And so this is the game, and because apparently the person I played watches the videos, I might as well do a video on the game for him, right? So here you go. Let's see if I can get my opponent to spawn here. Um, let's pause and talk army builds before we really get into it. I have. Oh, first of all, the rule here was four light artillery. Excuse me, four light infantry. And the person was playing Prussia. I feel like now this might be how all the kids are doing it these days. But back when I played, the we generally said no artillery and five lights. I think if you're Prussia and you want to restrict it down to four lights, I think you're kind of nerfing yourself a little bit, especially against France. And I almost snap picked France when I saw that rule set, because the strength of Prussia is their light infantry. The Fusilier here is their best unit. And if you're going to restrict yourself to only four of those, I mean, sure, you want to play the game however, that's cool. But I think that if I intended to play as Prussia, I would prefer to bring five lights. So what I have is four lights and a militia there, a bunch of line, and I have three of the heavy cav dragoons. So that's kind of what I've got. Now, opponent's army is a little weird. There's a few weird things here. So first of all, there are the four lights up front, and then it's landwehr. There's a landwehr there and a landwehr over there. So three landwehr. And what I think he's trying to do is he has the expensive general here, and I think he's trying to do the expensive general militia trick, which everybody tries at least a couple times and it never works. Right? So I think that's kind of what he's thinking. There's a grenadier there, I guess, for flair. Not really the kind of unit you want to bring on this map. And then there's a foot guard, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line in the back. A couple things to note. The first is the cav are initially positioned on the flanks. I think this is a mistake, and I'm gonna get to this in a minute. But there's really only what was that again? Six. There's only seven real line. I guess we have to count the grenadiers. So there's eight real line infantry and three landwehr. Again, I think you're kind of nerfing yourself, especially against Great Britain, whose strength is line infantry. The way that GB Prussia matchup works is the GB infantry is going to be better than the Prussian. So the Prussians really relying on getting some quality out of their lights, and they're relying on getting quality out of their lancers, which are excellent. And the initial positioning of these lancers on the flanks, I think, is kind of problematic. The reason for that is, and I think the theme for this game is there's this concept of chess, or this concept in chess of having active pieces. And in chess, what they mean is, like if you imagine a chessboard, if you have, your rook is stuck in the corner behind a bunch of pawns, and so your rook can't actually threaten the opponent, then that would be an inactive piece, right? So the rook isn't actually contributing to the game in any shape, right? Or if you have your bishop still back there, or your queen still back there behind your pawns. Napoleon operates largely in the same way. You want to have your pieces as active as possible. You want to have as many people shooting at any given time as possible. And so what this dude has done is, I assume that these units are going to, the plan is to put them on the flank. And to be fair to this player, they probably don't face opponents who just run crazy to the middle of the map and start shooting at you the way that I'm about to do. So maybe this is just kind of learned behavior. He thinks he has a little more time to deploy in the flank than in reality he's going to wind up not having. But the other thing is there's 8 units in the center here. So there's the 4 lights, which are great, but then there's 4 units backing them up. That's just a whole bunch of units that he's putting in the center. And you would hope that, and generally you would protect your lights with, say, like 2, right? So that would give him an extra unit on each flank, right? So there are too many units protecting the lights in the center. These are going to be inactive pieces because once his 4 lights start shooting at mine, these 4 units, which are back here to protecting his cav ostensibly, there's probably too many units here, is what I would think. We really need to get these units moving onto the flanks. Right now we're really narrow. Really need to get these units on the flanks. The other distinction between how the two of us are deploying our armies, and you can see my dots, I'm going wide there, is that I'm keeping all of my cav in the center. And I think that that's, at the opening of a game, you need at least some cav in the center. Just to threaten lights and to force them to keep units back to protect their lights. Now, when a player signals to me that they're going to push all their cav, and he's actually moving them further out the flank, you can see right now. When a player signals that to me, then that means that I don't need much protection in my center, and you're going to notice that I'm going to wind up pushing my lights and my militia, and then with only 1 unit in the middle to protect them, which is going to free me more units to push on my flank. So for example, I've already got 4 units over here that are going to be pushing down his left, and you can see he's got 3 units of his own, maybe this one, that are going to get along. But then I'm going to have a 5th unit that's going to be able to show up once I realize his disposition is so wide with his cav. Is kind of a theory. And then again, I've already got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I've got 4 units aligned over here. Now there's a couple micro hiccups that happen here. Again, he's issued this movement order, the cav there. And I'm continuing a symmetrical game with them in the center. We're going to have 4 lights shooting at 4 lights. I do have a militia that should give me an edge, or because his units are better than mine, maybe that gives us parity. But what happens is, this is kind of an interesting thing. So I have 2 line that are coming, and he's issued a move order that these units are coming over here, and then he's kind of got distracted. But a real weakness of pushing your cav to the flanks like this, if your opponent is paying, is that increases your attention demands, right? So he issues this move order for the cav to move out that direction, then he kind of gets busy somewhere else, right? And so what I'm going to do is just stop in square and then put some, get some free damage onto these units. That's going to happen like right there. Yeah, so that's not ideal. Additionally, it's worth pointing out that his cav way out there and way over here isn't supporting the army at all. So when we talk about keeping your pieces active, a cav unit is much more powerful when it's supporting attacking infantry. Right, we talk about this a lot. Unsupported cav is useless cav. Right, cav can't achieve very much on their own, but when you start applying cav in support of your infantry, you start getting combat multipliers. Your cav become extra powerful, and these 2 units out here aren't really going to be able to accomplish much of anything, assuming your opponent is paying attention. Now, if you're playing against a bad player, then sure, you can, walk around here and crash into the rear of their line in an opportune moment, but you kind of have to assume that your opponent is actually good, I think, to play your best Napoleon. If you just want to play against 1-star baddies all day, then you're not going to learn anything, and your game isn't going to develop. So we're about to start fighting here. And again, my cav is all in the center. And notice I only have 1 line unit backing up my lights. So as we engage, because his units in the back are still kind of disorganized, like he's got 2 line moving this direction, I think that this game really developed faster than he was kind of prepared for, and these units are kind of over here. What winds up happening is that my center engages his, and then I get to push additional line units this direction. What this means is that as the next 60 seconds happen, is I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units shooting against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So already at this point in the game, I've got 8 units that are shooting against 5 of his, right? These are active pieces. Units that are shooting right now are active pieces. And if I have 8 units active against 5 of yours, I'm going to win. And I'm probably going to win that game every time. So the trick to winning, especially grassy games where there are no bottlenecks or any kind of weird things happening, is to getting as many pieces active as soon as possible, or at least in advantageous position as soon as possible. So like this unit here, this Landor isn't going to contribute much anyway due to being a militia, but it hopefully could be an active unit and, push here. A couple of these units should be here, right, to protect against the threat of cav. And you could also argue that this unit is about to be very active because as he realized his mistake, he's now pulling these lancers back, but it's poor pathing and they're going to walk right into a volley from my foot. Now, I pushed a cav unit. I want to disorganize his lights. So now I've got a 9th unit active in the game. He actually has good reaction, and this Fusilier withdraws soon. I feel like he handled my Lancer attack very well. He's going to wind crushing that unit. I think the mistake, though, is that he responds to the Dragoon here by countercharging with his 2 Lancers that he had on the left. I feel like this is a good move, and there, the volley just went off on those Lancers. I feel like this is a good move from him because he is pulling his cav back to the center of the field where they're going to be more relevant. The flaw in the maneuver is that these Lancers are simply countercharging my Dragoons, which I've already signaled that I'm willing to sacrifice just for disruption in the center of the line. And so Lancer number 1, again, just carnage on the right. I get 2 free cav units. Just due to poor pathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm up to 10 active units here. Now, so his Lancer does win. And again, he continues the first charge into my lights, which is a fine play. Well, it's a fine play because what he's trying to do is disorganize the center of my lane, which is good and correct. But it doesn't rectify the fundamental firepower disadvantage. Like if I have, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 11 units engaging 6 at this point. So if I have 11 on 6 firefight going on and you charge a couple cav units that are disorganized 1 or 2 of my lights, that's a really good idea, and that's making progress, in developing your board, but it's not enough. So even if we go, it's 11v6, you throw a couple cav in, and so now it's 9v8, you've temporarily taken 2 of my lights off the board by adding 2 of your Lancers. That's good, but it's not going to turn the game around, right? There goes the first Lancer. Second Lancer is really getting chewed up. So the second Lancer, I don't think he's going to wind up actually routing any of the lights at that point. Right? So again, we have the problem of there's just too many active pieces for me in the center and not enough for him. Now, the left is about to develop now because these 2 units are in a really good position vis-a-vis his board. So what he's got is only 2 units on the left. Again, there's just all these units in the back that aren't participating in the game. I think that the flaw in how this player approached this is they didn't, get these pieces active soon enough. So what's going to happen is 5 of my line are going to crash down on 2 of his. And at this point, I decide to start committing my other 2 cav. 1 go to either flank. And the difference in how I commit, well, we'll talk about it in a second. So he makes a good play here, and he realizes that he's disorganized and he needs to fall back in a line there. And somehow this is sort of turned into a general scrum in the center of the field. The flaw is that, there's just a landware there, and I was able to jump on and again have more units firing basically at every point in the field that the opponent was. So the onus of firepower was kind of on me at every stage in the game and every part of the field. So the attack on the left develops now as my line moves into position. And so this is going to be a 5-on-3 with the cav unit coming in from me. The good news is this dude has, well, actually that's not true. What I kind of think happens is his army starts moving kind of erratically at this point, and I think the dude actually kind of just like goes mass melee charge right here. Like maybe he's like, oh, I'm fucked, and I'm getting out of here. But there is kind of this weird movement down the field. On the left, this fight goes kind of predictably, like it's just too much. And then some other units kind of get trapped. It's worth noting that if you look at my army, I'm able to complete the U, or I don't know, I have a lines parallel, so I'm able to complete the enveloping motions on either side. The reason I'm able to do that is, again, remember the player started very narrow with, kind of the lights with the protection, and then the rest of his line kind of back here. And he never really had the option to move his units out to the flank. And because the game developed so rapidly, he kind of got stuck, and what winds up happening is he's quite literally cut in two groups. Like, this is the initial forward part of his army with the lights and the line that were protecting them, and then back here we have another pocket of the units that were just never able to break out into the flanks where he wanted. I kind of attribute this to two things. The first is a lot of attention got wasted on trying to micro the cav out in the flanks, which was a bad idea to begin with. They weren't going to accomplish much out on their own. But because I think what was happening is the player was wasting a lot of their actions per minute on microing that cav, that they were just never able to give a real clear order that, hey, I really need you 4-line units way out here. I need you 3-line way out there. And so as the game developed very rapidly, there was just never time for that order. There was never space for those units to occupy those positions. And I think specifically because of my action along the road here, which, kind of caused the center to become larger than it probably should have been, the player just never got a chance to establish space in the flanks. That's a reason why, the easy no-brainer is, initial deployment of your army is, all right, drag select my lights, 4 lights, and then drag select on my line all the way across the screen. And that's the easy way to do it, to ensure that you do establish space in the flanks to get your army situated. Otherwise, you wind up in a situation like this, where the back half of your army, which maybe you're holding them back so you can make some informed decisions or whatever, just kind of never really happened. The game just developed too quickly, and as a result, you wind up getting sandwiched, and that's kind of why, right? So back up here, this is what's left of the forward part of the army. We got, what do we got? Foot guard, musketeer, landwehr, and these armies, these units actually do fairly well. He winds up picking off a lot of my. He's obviously just going up for melee charge at this point. So, but these units actually were a lot harder to kill than I thought they should have been, which is just kind of weird. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But I had a ton of fun playing this game, and obviously this person was kind of expressing interest as a student of the game, or hoping to get better and everything. And I hope you really enjoy playing it. It's a fantastic game, and bad news is the player base isn't that big anymore, just because the game's old. But it is, I think, one of the more intellectually deep of all the Total War titles, probably the most intellectually deep. And I really encourage you to keep playing it, man. Or woman. I have no idea what the gender of my opponent was. But I just hope you enjoy continuing to play the game. And it's fantastic. There's a lot to learn. And it's very sophisticated. So I had a great time playing with you. Thanks, GG Would Play again. And that was my experience on, what was that, Thursday night? Thursday night. So, Cushiony, had a great time playing with you, and just keep working on little things, and before you know it, you'll be beating me. And anyway, thanks for watching. My name is Jay Martin. Bye.